Next, we're going to have Mrs. Nancy Dankus. Mrs. Dankus is the mother of Stephen Dankus, the 17-year-old River Hill High School student athlete who died on September 29th, 2009, after being thrown from a pickup truck driven by his best friend's older brother. The driver was drunk. She's going to begin her presentation with a short 3-minute slideshow.
Nothing can compare to losing a child. The hardest part is, as everyone else's life goes on, every day of my life is November 29th. Stephen was an extremely, extremely kind-hearted child. He would never intentionally hurt anyone, just would give you the shirt off his back. But, you know, he was not perfect. He did things wrong. He was your typical child. Fast forwarding to the weekend of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was Stephen's absolute favorite holiday. Most kids would go for Christmas, not Stephen. He was all about the food. So it was very strange that that Thanksgiving, everybody seemed to hang around a little bit longer, talk a little bit more, a little extra hug. Very different. And my husband at the time was going out of town. And I said to Stephen, I hated being home by myself. And my daughter was going out. I said, Stephen, would you please stay at home these 2 nights, you know, Thursday and Friday night? No problem, Mom, I'll stay home, but you have to promise me I get Saturday night. I said, fair deal. He goes, okay, well, I'm gonna spend the night at my friend's house on Saturday night. No problem, that's cool. He was never, ever, ever late for curfew. Not 1 minute. He never, ever walked in the front door drunk. Never. Did I think that my son did not do anything? Absolutely not. He was 17. They're all doing it. So this Saturday night, Stephen went out. And I had called him to come back home. He comes back home. And I'm talking to him, and he starts getting upset. And I'm like, you know, I said, I really want you to stay in. And he said, look, you made me a promise. Why are you backing out on your promise? You said I could go out. And I said, okay, fine. You're not driving. Give me the keys. Truck's staying here. You know, and I told my son 1,000,000 times, if anything ever happens to you, I will not survive. Once again that night, I said, you know, we went outside and we were talking, and I said, Stephen, please understand, I won't make it without you. Don't go out there being stupid. Something happens to you, I'm done. I'm done. We were so close. It was amazing. His buddies come and pick him up. Stephen jumps in the car, and I said to his best friend in the front seat, I said, look, and I called him, I said, you take care of your big brother. Well, Jordan was a little kid, but same age. But I said, you know, you make sure you take care of your big brother tonight. And Stephen was in the back seat, and he slides over to the side of the car, and he's got this smile, and he's like, Mom, what are you saying? What are you saying? I said, I told him to make sure they take care of you. You know, make sure y'all stay safe tonight. The last time I saw Stephen alive, he had the biggest smile on his face. So my husband and my youngest son were out of town. They had headed to the beach that Thursday. And Stephen texts me at 2:47. Hi, Mom, I'm where I'm supposed to be. See you in the AM. And I thought, first off, this child never texts me in the middle of the night. This is just like weird, you know, because that might give her a little hint that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So I text him back, you know, a little joke between us. And then I text him again asking him, are you where you're supposed to be? I never heard from Stephen. That accident, I would think, happened less than 5 minutes after Stephen sent me that text. And the only thing that I can hope is that Stephen read my text and got to smile on his way out. But it was, whatever reason, I was on his mind. So I had, you know, a really hard time getting back to sleep because I kept waiting for him. And I'm like, son of a gun, you know, and then of course I'm, you know, just like, you know, moms are. I finally fall back asleep, and it's probably by this time 4 o'clock in the morning. Next thing I know, my daughter comes running in the bedroom. She's like, Mom, do you hear this? And I'm like, what, Lauren? I don't hear anything. Well, you know, I was probably just getting in that deep sleep. This is at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I said, what? And she goes, Mom, somebody is banging on the door. They're ringing the bell. They won't stop. So I get up, I look out the window, and I go, it's fine. It's Stephen's friend. I'm thinking it's Stephen's friend. God knows where I ever saw that picture of that child's car out there. So I start walking down the steps. As soon as I get to the steps, I see the glass. I said, oh my God, it's the police. I said, this isn't good. And she says, well, just go answer the door. And I said, no, this isn't good. Well, I'm sure they've probably heard everything there is, but when I opened that door, there was 2 of them. That's the giveaway when you have 2. And I said to them, please tell me that you're here to tell me my son has been arrested. And he says, no, you know, he asked me if I was Nancy Dankos. I said, yes. He said, well, your son's been in an accident. And I said, okay, so you're here to tell me he's hurt, and you're going to tell me where I need to go, right? And he said, no. My daughter, 14 years old, is standing next to me. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Never shed a tear. You do not react the way you think you will react. Just like you can sit there and look at me and think this will never be you. Just remember, I sat in your seat. But at that time, they said that they told me who he was with, and Stephen's close friend Thomas was the passenger, and Thomas's brother was driving. And his name is David, nicest kid you ever wanted to meet. Well, David, when they came to the door, and they were talking to me, they said that Thomas, they also did not think was going to make it. And I think that's where I got my strength, because I just didn't know how we were going to deal with losing 2 people in one day. So, you know, first thing, hats off to Howard County. Everybody, they've been wonderful. You know, they gave me time. Let me call somebody to get somebody here. It's just me and my 14-year-old daughter. The poor child's rubbing my arm, telling me we're going to be okay. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't know how we get through this one. Well, within 2-3 hours, I probably had anywhere between 200 and 300 people at my house, to where you're just, what is going on? Because you cannot comprehend what somebody has just told you. Next thing you know, I've got news reporters nonstop, and you're like, why? What is going on? Because you still can't grasp what is happening. And you know, like, you know, you see people talking on the news that have just lost their child, and you go, wow, they're like not even crying. What's their problem? It's called denial. So it was probably one of the worst experiences. No, it is the worst experience of my life. But what no one ever sees, everybody moves on, everybody has to get back with their life. But they don't see what happens afterwards. My marriage did not survive. That ended immediately. I will say this type of